Good afternoon. Thanks for coming out to the party at Detroit Table Talk. Myself and Dro welcome you. Today, Dro is not with us, but we're going to move on without him, and we will see him next Saturday at the table. We have a special guest today. We have attorney Rochelle Lester, and I'm going to allow her to introduce herself.
Good afternoon. I am so happy to be here. I'm an attorney. As she stated, I actually have been practicing law now for 25 years. This is my 25th year. I graduated law school and passed the bar exam in 1992. Since then, I've been handling family law matters, probate matters, estate planning, real estate, and collection cases, all civil cases. I have the law office of Rochelle C. Lester, PLLC. The email address is attorney spelled out and my first name, Rochelle, RICHELLE @gmail.com. And I'm excited today to discuss the issues of family law.
We're so glad to have her at the table today. I know that I've listened to so many men, for the most part, and because I'm a woman, I'm always in a circle of women talking about issues that have to do with parenting and co-parenting, and a lot of times just basic subjects come up with, are you getting child support? Do you have visitation rights? Are you going out for custody? So a lot of times we're sitting at the table and we're talking about these issues, and a lot of times there's no resolution to these issues. Some parents decide to, as they say in Detroit, just thug it out on their own.
Yeah.
They don't really want the fight, that they have to go through to deal with the court system. And for a lot of African American people, I think I'm safe to say the whole criminal justice system have traumatized us. So even when it comes to doing what's right and what's best for their child, they opt out, and I hear a lot of men say, well, when they get old enough, hopefully they'll come looking for me or something like that, which is beyond me.
I agree.
But we have 497,344 children born to unmarried parents that have child support cases.
Wow.
That's a lot of children. You got 91.6% of children born to unmarried parents had paternity established. So when you talk about a lot of children that are going through the court system, it's a lot. It's a lot. And just imagine all the ones that are not going through the court system. They're hoping and praying that their spouse or their significant other or their baby mama would allow them to see their child, or their baby father will allow them to see. Because we don't want to just think that, women have the children all the time. We have a lot of men. I've ran into so many men that have full custody of their children.
Yes.
And they fight the same fight that we fight.
Yes.
So we're going to dig into it. We're going to let Attorney Lester, jump in and give us the rundown.
Yes. And I'm willing to answer whatever questions you may have, but I'm going to give just generic information to start. First thing that I want to start with is if you ever receive any court papers, please contact an attorney.
Yes.
Do not try to wing it. Do not try to represent yourself. Don't think, that's not a big deal. I don't have to show up. Contact an attorney. Do not assume anything.
That's good advice.
If you receive a summons from the court, it does not always have a court date. Sometimes a summons just says you're being sued. You have 21 days or 28 days to respond in writing. So if you ever receive a summons, please contact an attorney so that you know what your rights are. Because if you fail to respond to that summons, you could be in default and you could lose your case by default. And all of the issues and concerns and disputes you have will be lost.
So that means whatever the parent was asking for,
Yes.
it's automatically
Granted.
Okay.
You've given up your voice to express what your wishes, desires, and wants are. And that other parent will be granted what they're requesting.
Man.
And there's no guarantee a judge will overturn that default.
And then that's more money because you still have to get an attorney to
Yes.
go back to even ask the judge to amend the order.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a lot.
A lot of people feel, I don't have the money to pay for a lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer.
You can't afford not to.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say, because the trouble that it costs to get into
Yeah.
the problem is even more. There are so many men, and I'm quite sure women too, who have thousands of dollars in child support arrears because they failed to appear in court. They ignored court dates. They ignored paperwork. They pushed it to the side, never addressed it, never got an attorney. So the first thing you would always want to do is consult with an attorney. Do not attempt to represent yourself. Do not rely on what the other person is telling you. Do not rely on the other party's attorney.
Yes.
Get an attorney to fight for you.
Yes.
So there are several areas that cover family law. We have paternity, custody, parenting time, child support, divorce, spousal support, domestic violence, prenuptial agreements, and then it
And
goes.
all that comes through the family
Yes,
court.
the
Okay.
family division in the circuit court of the county
Wow.
where the children are located.
And then I think for the custodial parent or the parent that the child is in custody of at that moment, that child has to see that you're making an effort and that you're fighting for them.
Yes.
Because you don't want it to be said when that child get older, my mom said or my dad said, you didn't want me.
Yes.
And then that's a whole different kind of bag that you have to now undo.
Listen, I tell my male clients, it's worth fighting for your children.
Yeah.
If you're willing to fight for your children, I will fight with you.
Yeah.
Because you want it to be said years from now when your children are older, I fought for you. And whether you win or lose, you want to be able to look at your children and say, when they become adults, I fought for you.
Yes. It
And-
means so much.
It means so much.
It means so much.
And your children can go back actually through, because court papers are public record.
Mm-hmm.
And they can see if you didn't fight for them or,
Right.
you know, whatever
You
the
didn't show
case-
up to
you didn't show
court
up.
and-
Right. You didn't care enough. You have $50,000 in child support.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
And they arresting people for that, you know.
Yes.
So you can you can sit on it if you want. They arresting folks for not paying their child support.
And
So I would behoove you to get an attorney and sit down and just understand your rights that you have as a father and as a mother.
Yes.
I listen to so many men give me, and when I say this, I'm not being disrespectful to the men that have told me their stories, but to me, it's a sob story. I don't want to hear, for the most part, what she's doing, what she's not doing. She won't let me have my baby. She won't let me. There's a court system that, and I understand most men think, oh, the court system is set up for the woman. That's not necessarily true, you know. But I get tired of hearing those stories when there's no action behind it. Okay,
Yes.
well, have you went to the court and, you know, petitioned for a paternity test? Nah, I haven't did that. I'm going to do it. But you've been saying that for 2 years.
exactly.
You know, have you, you know, been contributing to your child and keeping money order receipts? Nah, because I don't want her using it to take care of her other children. It's like, sir, ma'am, once that money is released, it's for the care of your child, and the parent has to live.
Yes.
So if your child is living in the house,
Yes.
pretty much she does what she wants with that money. If
Yes.
the child has a roof over her head, lights, gas, water, food, it's nothing more that you can really ask for.
Exactly.
So sometimes I sit and listen, and I try to empathize with them, sympathize with them, but it's like, okay, after we do this, now what's your plan?
Yes.
I know that it was a couple of bumps in the road where my son had, they get into an argument, and then, this or that and that and this, and it's like, it's nice if you can communicate with the person, if you can put a plan in action, but at the end of the day, if the child is in that person's custody, then they have the say-so of what goes on with that child. When you get an attorney and go through the court,
Yes.
it's laid out
Yes.
on the days that you get your child, when you get them, when you return them, how much money is being exchanged, how it's being exchanged, and it's nothing that person can do. Now, they can be crazy and say, well, I'm not bringing them, but then you can bring the law into it and have it enforced. So we always, we talk about fire insurance, we talk about life insurance. I think when you pay child support, when you do what you have to do, that's the assurance of saying that you have some kind of foundation that the both of you are supposed to go by.
Yes.
And it's not always going to be, where it works out the way you want.
Yes.
There are going to be some bumps and bruises, but for the most part, there's a foundation that the judge have stated that this is what's to happen, how, when, and I beg fathers and mothers to do what they have to do, because working in the Detroit public schools since 1998, I think I resigned maybe little over 2.5 years ago. You'd be amazed at how it affects the children.
Yes.
Not having their parent, and it's not just men.
Right.
I have never, my last class I have 4th grade, social studies and science class. And I never had so many. I have 42 kids, and out of 42 kids, 20-something of those children, parents were incarcerated, living with grandparents, and living with an auntie or an uncle.
Yes.
That's a high number.
That's very high.
That's a high number.
Yes.
I was out today at the ballpark. Both of my grandsons play baseball. Well, one played t-ball, the other one played baseball. And the sure joy that I got looking at the fathers standing out there cheering their sons on, high-fiving them, and the smiles that come across these children's face, it means a lot.
Yes.
To have you involved with your child.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you a question.
Yes.
On a normal day,
Yes.
once someone calls you and say, hey, this is my issue I'm having, me and my girlfriend is no longer together, and she won't let me see my child, what can I do?
Yes. Well, what I always tell men is you're just as important as that mother. You have rights. You do not have to wait for her to give you parenting time.
Yes.
You have the right to file a complaint for custody, parenting time with the court, and have an order in place that specifies who has custody, who has parenting time, who's paying child support. All of the details, all of the issues and problems that you're having, you need to reduce it to a court order. Once that court order is in place, that mother cannot deny you your parenting time.
Yeah.
Or if she does, there will be consequences. And what I have to explain to the men is you have to have your voice in the beginning.
Yes.
Because if you don't, the court will simply lump you into the category of a deadbeat dad. Where have you been, Dad? Why haven't you been there? Why haven't you supported this child? But if you show up from day one and say, I want to have a court order in place. I'm not waiting for her to file it. I want to know how often I can see my child. And once that court order is in place, everything should run like clockwork.
Let me ask you a question. When a child is born, of course, we don't have a custody order in place. If a man decides to go to court first and ask for custody of the child, what did they call it? Oh, shoot, it slipped my mind. Where the child is in his custody all the time.
Physical custody, primary physical custody.
Can he do that?
It's not
before the mom approaches the court?
He may not. It's not going to be easy to snatch that child away, a newborn child, from a mother. I hate to say it like this, but I tell my clients, you better have a video of the mother smoking crack if you're planning to snatch a child, an infant, away from the mother. So the court may not grant that father primary physical custody unless there's something major going on with the mother. Now, in the beginning, paternity has to be established. So in Michigan, having your name on a birth certificate is not enough to establish paternity. You have to sign an affidavit of parentage. Mom and dad signs an affidavit of parentage acknowledging that he is the biological father.
That's without a test being
That's without a test. If he knows that he is the father, he wants to acknowledge, he can voluntarily do that. But on that affidavit, it says that it's presumed that the mother is the primary custodial parent. But it doesn't specify what his parenting time is. So in order to establish his parenting time and to establish who has custody and the terms of it, he would then need to file a petition for custody in the court. Now, he may not be asking for sole physical custody. He may be asking for her to be awarded sole physical custody, but he would want a parenting time schedule in place so that it's clear when his parenting time starts, when it ends. So there are two kinds of custody: legal and physical. Legal means who's going to make the decisions about this child's life concerning education, child care, religion, extracurricular activities. Legal custody is normally granted to both parents because courts feel both parents should actively be involved in the decision making of the child's life. Physical custody means who is the child physically going to live with. Now, the child could live with the mother, and the father can have parenting time. The child could live with the father, and the mother could have parenting time. Or there could be joint physical custody, meaning the child would have about the same number of overnight visits with each parent. So you need to have something in place that establishes legal custody, physical custody, parenting time.
Now, when it gets to you, when one of the parents, come to your office or call your office, about time it get to you, are they not speaking anymore? Has it gotten to a place where
every case
they need a mediator?
Every case is different. So when we go through the court procedure, the court gives you an opportunity to make a decision on your own. And what I tell people is, you do not want these folks making decisions about your family. They don't know you. They don't know him. They don't know this child. They have no clue. They're going off of words that are on a paper. So the ideal situation is for the parents to get together, make an agreement. Now, once we're in the court procedure, the court normally requires the parties to go through mediation. Mediation is where you go before a neutral party who's normally either a retired judge or an attorney, or it's just a neutral party who's trained to help parties come to an agreement. They will sit you down. Now we're doing most of the time on Zoom. They want to hear both sides. What is it that you want? And then they try to get you to come to an agreement and put that agreement in writing about custody, parenting time, child support. Both parties sign it, and then you can reduce that to a court order.
Okay.
Have the judge sign it. Once the judge signs it, it's enforceable under the law.
How long does that procedure last?
Mediation normally lasts 3 hours or more because these issues get really deep. They first have to do a domestic violence screening to make sure both parties are going to enter into this voluntarily and not feel threatened. Then they need to hear both sides. And in order to go through all of the issues, most mediations on average take 3 hours. And then there are times that we'll go back. Once is not enough. Sometimes we'll go back 2 or 3 times until we have a final agreement. Now, if you're not able to come to an agreement, you will have to go through a trial, also called an evidentiary hearing.
Okay.
And the judge would have to make a decision on your case concerning these issues.
Do you find that you have a lot of stubborn
Yes, ma'am.
clients that just, they know it's in the best interest of the child, but they don't want to feel like they've lost?
Yes.
So,
I've had cases where the other side is stubborn. Sometimes my client is stubborn because they can't see past their own hurt.
okay.
As most people know, the courts want to look at what is in the best interest of the child. And some people can't even see that because they're so angry at this other parent, or they're frustrated and they want to punish that person so badly that they're not able to push their feelings to the side and look at what are the best interests of the child.
So it's no longer about the child, it's about me winning.
Yes.
Or me hurting you or sticking it to you or whatever.
Yes.
Man, I wish we can just get past all that, you know, and just say, you know what, let's do this for the baby. You
Yes.
know, okay, I understand, I'm hurt, you hurt, we're no longer together,
Right.
but let's just come together for the child.
Yes.
The child will be much happier. The child doesn't feel like they're in the middle.
Yes.
Like they have to make a decision. The anxiety that I have seen on children, feeling like they have to pick a side, it's sad.
Exactly.
It's sad. You know, I just wish that, you know, we find some kind of way
Yes.
to make it happen for the child.
Let me tell you.
I've talked to some women,
Yes.
and I'd be like, girl, let it go.
Let it go. Let
Like,
it go.
is this more important than your child seeing the father or having a healthy relationship?
Right.
And some of them just outright tell you yes. And it's like, but that's toxic.
Very. And it's
See,
damaging.
when your child is crying, asking for their parent, you yelling and telling them to be quiet and he ain't or she ain't no good, that's damaging to a child. That's
Yes.
traumatic.
Right.
You know, so I'm an advocate, first of all, for children,
Yes.
but I'm definitely an advocate for healthy parenting when it comes to children.
Yes.
So I'm not one of your girlfriends. Don't call me.
Right.
I'm not one of your girlfriends that's gonna agree with you, especially if I see that you are deliberately keeping that child from his father.
Yes.
When my children are grown now. They're like, 28 and 30. When they were younger now, when I was 19, I went through my little spell where, you know, I tried to give him hell because of what he did. I'm just being honest. I tried to give him hell. But it got to the point where it was like, I don't have the energy to fuss and argue with you. Come
Right.
with these kids.
Yes.
You know, or, you know, get to the point where I'd be like, pack up these kids and drop them off on the porch and knock on that door. When he opens that door, I'm out. I've did that once before. He's like,
Right.
what you doing? What you doing?
It's your turn. Tag.
These
you
your
it.
sons. So, Now I can laugh at it. Back then, he was like, what I supposed to do with him? The same thing I do. Well, when I go to work, what I supposed to do? Get a babysitter just like I have to do. So I encourage, parents, the father and the mother, to kind of work together. And if you can't work together, get someone in the middle that can help you kind of bring you guys together. And if you don't want to see him no more because he hurt you or she hurt you, get a location that you can drop the child off.
Yes.
And that other individual can pick that child up from that location.
Yes.
And you don't have to see the child. See the parent. If they bring you that many hurtful memories, I guess. I don't know.
And you can use a third party. If you just can't stand to see that person's face, you can have another family member or a friend to do the exchanges for you if it's going to end up being hostile together. But you all need to work out whatever you need to for that child. Now, there are also resources out here. Courts sometimes will also require the parents to go to co-parenting classes together or counseling together for high conflict.
Should.
Yes, because sometimes people don't know how to talk to each other. Mm-hmm. Every conversation ends up in an argument, yelling, somebody throwing something, somebody calling someone out their name, and you cannot co-parent in a situation like that. And like you said, it causes anxiety for children. Children should be worried about what dress should I wear to church on Sunday, or who am I going to play? Who's going to play ball with me? Yeah. They should not be worried about.
They ain't worried about no dress going to church, though. I can tell you that right now.
Right. I'm just saying little kid stuff. They should be worried about kid stuff. Somebody needs to play, who's going to play games with me.
Who's going to play Roblox with me? Right?
Yes. They should be worried about that, not worried about, man, are my parents going to be arguing again? Are they going to be there when we go and pick them up? That anxiety that child has, that's not necessary. They need to be in a healthy environment and growing up so that they can be productive citizens.
As African Americans, I don't know why we run from counseling.
Yes.
And it's just beyond me. But I think that when you get to the point where you're no longer together as a couple, I think one of the first things you probably should do is maybe get some counseling to help navigate the separation, especially when it's has to do with children.
Yes.
And that way you can walk away, and both of you can walk away healthy, and you can be whole for the exchange that you're going to have to do in the coming years, with the child. I just think it's mandatory that you get some co-parenting counseling. And it doesn't have to be that you're there for years.
Right.
A couple of sessions will help place some kind of foundation that you guys can get your footing on, so that child will be the focus. It will teach you how to communicate, how to, talk to that person.
Yes.
How to recognize when, you've crossed that line, the boundary line. So I would suggest, did you get counseling?
Yes.
Now let me ask you a question. Now, we see a lot going on in the celebrity news.
Yes.
And, all these celebrities that have money, they get married to these people. And some of them may have prenuptial agreements, and some don't.
Right.
In Michigan, how long does that prenup? Like, can you get it from the beginning of the marriage, or you have to be in a marriage for a certain length of time before it become active?
You need to get a prenuptial agreement before marriage. One reason is because once you're married, you're gaining assets together. And it may be difficult to get a postnuptial agreement enforced by a court when the parties are already married. Because once you're married, sometimes you end up having joint accounts and joint assets, and then that makes it more complicated to decide, what happens in a divorce. So it's best to do it before you get married.
Do you find, or have you found that some judges already have preconceived ideas on custody issues and financial issues?
Well, one reason why we vote and elect judges is supposed to be because of their opinion, because we believe in the things that they believe in. So I believe most judges, based on their past experience, their life experience, their education, they come already with their own prejudices and biases in making your decision. But in general, I believe that the system itself has its own prejudices, because I believe that because of the history of so many men neglecting their children and leaving women to fend for themselves and leaving the system to provide for children, the courts sometimes lump all men into deadbeat dads, quote unquote. And it's almost like fathers have to prove that they're not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the case until enough men step up and show that they're forthcoming. I think that's an underlying thing that's in the system that is unspoken, but I believe it's there unless and until a man proves differently.
Is the
now,
shift
is that
changing
right?
a little?
Yes, that was going to be the other thing that I was going to say. First of all, I'm seeing a lot more women who are becoming neglectful of their children and walking away from their children, and it astonishes me.
Yeah.
A lot more women are doing things that are unheard
Usually
of.
heard, yep.
And that's a shift. And another thing, there was a bill introduced to make joint physical custody the standard, but that has not passed, and I'm not sure.
Is it still sitting on
I believe
such and such desk?
I think so, and the pandemic made it, pushed it back, I believe, also.
One thing I like about Oakland County, in a sense, now Prosecutor McDonald is in that position, but before, I really liked that she had programs set up for parents that was, going through a lot of challenges and stuff like that, before removing the child. And I think she was just on a level where she wanted the child to be in a healthy place or whatever. So she tried to work with parents a lot.
Okay.
I don't know how she is now that she's become prosecutor.
Okay.
But I know that the children was always the center of her, her heart, for the most part.
Yes.
Do you see in Oakland County more programs coming forth for families that are trying to figure this out?
I believe all counties are trying to pull together any and all resources in order to help the situation with the conflicts between parents. We have a phrase called collaborative cases, where we're trying to get all boots on the ground, all hands on deck, to try to help these families to come to a resolution on their problems. So we have the counseling, we have counselors, we have mediators. The court will even appoint a guardian ad litem who is a neutral party, who will look into a family's situation and interview the child, the parents, and look at the child's living arrangements and give recommendations to the judge. So whatever is necessary, I believe I'm seeing this in all counties.
Oh, I think Wayne County has that program where they sit in the courtroom and they have an advocate then write up a summary to the judge on what they think would be in the best interest for that child.
Yes.
So
they're doing the best that they can to try to get these families to be able to get an agreement. because this issue is not just what's going on in the home. Whatever's going on in the home ends up becoming a community problem.
Yep.
So we have to have stability for these children in the home.
Do the judge make the parents go to counseling? Or?
If it's a high conflict case,
Okay.
yes, the court will order the parents to go to co-parenting counseling together.
Now, what do you mean when you say high conflict?
If this is a case where the parties are constantly coming back and forth to court, they don't order it on all cases,
Okay.
because it's not always required in all cases. Now, Oakland County has a SMILE program that requires the parents in any kind of custody or case for them to watch a video that explains how important it is for you all to work in the best interest of the child. Wayne County, I believe, has one, and Macomb County as well.
Okay.
So every parent has to go through that, generic program, and it's just a video that you watch. You get a certificate.
How long is the video?
I've never done. I think it's an hour.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
That's not significant enough
Maybe
time.
it's 3 hours. I really
Okay.
don't know because I've never done it. But whatever it is, it's required whenever there's children involved in a case. However, when there's a high conflict case, when the parties are constantly coming to court and saying he's doing this, she's
Okay.
doing that, the court will take it to the next step and say, no, you all will have to attend co-parenting classes together or joint therapy together. And sometimes they may have sessions once or twice a week for 6 weeks or whatever. Every program is different. And sometimes the counselor will meet with them together, meet with them separately, but they try to get them to be able to come to an understanding on how to communicate better
Okay.
with each other.
Now, we read during the pandemic, domestic violence skyrocketed. How does that play into the children? When I mean, how does that play? Did the numbers go up for the children during that time?
Listen, it seemed like everybody must have been falling apart. I was getting so many calls
Okay.
for custody, divorce, cases. And it used to be, like I said, I've been practicing law 25 years. In the past, there would be situations that I would handle custody or divorce cases, and the parties may have been married a number of years. The children are older or grown. I'm getting cases now when the party is the woman is still pregnant, and they're like, my baby is due August 1st. How can I set up child support now? Or the guy may be saying, the child is due August 1st. I know she's not going to let me see my child. How can I set up something now? And I'm like, well, first we have to have a child has to be born first.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I want an order immediately. So it's getting younger. The children are much younger. But the conflicts were skyrocketing during the pandemic because everyone, I believe, was on edge. And I believe it really affected the children. I believe it.
Are the numbers leveling out, or are they still on a rise?
I believe it's leveling out some, but here's another thing that's making it a lot easier. Because most of the courts are handling court hearings on Zoom video conference, everybody's like, why not? Let's take it to trial. Let's fight. Why? Because I can be sitting on my living room couch, sipping on tea, sipping on coffee, and conduct a trial or dispute and fight with this person through attorneys in front of a judge. It's easier to do that now. So I believe that also is playing a part that, there are a high number of cases because it's more convenient. You don't have to drive downtown to go to court. You don't have to pay for parking. You don't have to fight traffic. You may have to call off from work, and then you just sit on your couch.
What is this formula I keep hearing about?
Yes, the Michigan Child Support Formula. So let me explain. People think that child support is just a number that the courts use to penalize the fathers. That's not true. There's a formula called the Michigan Child Support Formula, and there's a complete handbook that explains how they come up with the child support number.
Okay.
It's a computer program. It's on any court's website, any county front of the court's website, and you can go on that website and calculate child support for your case. There are factors that the court looks at when determining child support.
So is there a base number that's just automatic on each case, and then depending on different criteria? Wow.
There's a formula. You have to input the information into a computer program. The computer program spits out a number for whomever to pay child support. So you input his income, her income, the number of overnight visits he has, the number of overnight visits she has, how much money you're paying for child care, how much you're paying for medical insurance. You plug these numbers into a computer program, and then the computer spits out how much should be paid for child support.
Now, how do people get to that website?
I don't know it by heart, but any county website, Oakland County Friend of the Court, and or Wayne County Friend of the Court, or you can Google.
So it can be micase.state.mi.us.
Okay.
Or if you want to calculate your child support payments in Michigan, you can go to www.allaw.com.
So let me say this to I can say men, but it would be to anyone who is ordered to pay child support. What they have to consider is you're not just paying money to this mother for her to do whatever with her money. You have to consider when a person has custody of a child, all of their bills have increased.
Yes.
They could live in a one-bedroom apartment or a studio apartment if they were single with no children. However, when you have a child, now you may have to live in a two-bedroom apartment or house. Your water bill, electric bill, gas, all of that is much higher because you've got a child.
And
your
we know these
food
children
bill,
love to be on the game system, so
you better have internet and you better have unlimited data on your whatever it is. So all of her expenses are increased because of this child. Your child support is supporting all of those needs. Yeah. So you may say, well, I pay for school supplies. I pay for everything that child needs. No, you don't. If you're not paying half of the rent, half of the cell phone and electrical and gas and all of that, you're not paying everything that child needs. Yeah. So the formula takes into account all of these factors, and it's based on income.
And this, to me, this is just my opinion, it's not enough. Even with the formula,
it's never
kicking out a number.
No.
It's just not enough. And especially now, we know we're in inflation.
Yes. It's never enough. Things come up for a child that most people don't consider. Yeah. Another thing that this formula does not include are extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
Children have more of a social life than most adults now.
Yes.
They're involved in soccer and football and chess and cheerleading, and all of that costs.
And they're not free.
It's not free. It's expensive.
And it's
you have to consider
trying to get the other parent to pay half. You pay half, I pay half.
Right.
And most time it's a struggle and it's an argument and it's a fight.
Yes.
Just trying to get half of 50.
Yes.
Sir, I'm only asking you for $25.
Exactly.
Like, seriously.
The other thing that I want men or whoever is responsible for child support to consider is that when child support is calculated, in order for you to get credit for all of the extra stuff that you're doing, you need to pay the money through the friend of the court system in order for you to get credit. So when you buy shoes or you buy clothes, the court is not going to consider that as part of child support. And child support is not going to be calculated going backwards in time. So you don't have to keep all of your receipts for every time you bought food or something for your child and think you're going to get credit for that for child support, because the court looks at it from the time the case is open going forward. But once the case is open, pay that money to the friend of the court to get credit.
So if a mother and a father don't approach the court to make a decision for maybe 2 or 3 years, do that judge go back to the beginning when that child was born?
No.
Or it
no,
starts
ma'am.
right there when the case, okay.
When the case is filed is
Okay.
when the court will take it into account.
Okay, so you holding on to receipts, it does nothing for your case.
It does nothing for your case.
Okay, fellas, throw away them receipts. No, I'm just playing.
You can keep your receipts, but it's not going to help you when it comes to child support. The other thing that I want men or whoever's paying child support to consider is this. Whenever child support order is in place, if there is a change in your income, you must file a motion with the court to change child support. I have so many men who are in arrears in child support, thousands of dollars, because the child support was based on their income when they were working for Chrysler.
Okay.
And now they're laid off or they're not working for Chrysler, and now they're, working on their own, self-employed or whatever, and they never went back to change the child support amount.
So the court is still calculating up that Chrysler and
Yes.
not with unemployment.
Exactly.
So sometimes you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Yes, and they get so angry. I shouldn't be paying this. I'm not earning
Well,
this
no,
money.
you're right. You shouldn't, but you didn't tell the court that you was not making that money anymore.
They can't read your mind. They don't have a crystal ball to see that you're no longer working.
And
you
most
have
of the
to
time-
tell them, I am no longer
Yeah.
making $110,000 a year. Please reduce my child support. I'm no longer working. I'm only making $50,000 now. And then from that point, whenever you file that motion, the court will adjust the support based on the time that you filed it. They cannot go back in time. If you've been out of work for 2 years and you now file that motion, the court is not going to go back 2 years when you didn't tell them about it and adjust the child support.
And don't get upset that the custodial parent is going to get mad at you for trying to get your child support reduced. That's just part of the process. I
Yes.
don't want to say the game, but it's part of the process. He or she has to do what they have to do if they have custody of the child.
Absolutely.
We should be far beyond that.
You have to be considerate of life changes. Things happen in life. Life happens to everyone.
Yeah.
And just like the mother, if she loses her job, she can file a motion with the court and say, I'm no longer earning $100,000 now. Now I'm unemployed. Now I'm earning $50,000. Adjust the support. It goes both ways. You have to be considerate that life happens to everyone.
I know of a young man when his child was born. I think it was maybe 2 months or something like that later, when the child support case was filed. Well, about time he went to court, maybe it was 6 months later, he had a really good judge. So, and the mother of the child was honest. So when he went to court, he was like, Judge, I do everything for my child, and ever since, the child has been born, I get him every weekend. I buy all his food, all his diapers, and the judge asked the young lady, is this accurate? And she said yes. And fortunately for that young man, he was only asked to pay $15 a month because he took very good care of, the child. Now, that's not something that's going to happen, for most people.
Right.
But I think the sooner the better.
Yes.
Don't wait until your child is 14, 15. Now you want to go through court because you may be, you may not walk out happy.
Exactly.
And then, a lot of men say, well, I can't live. I can't pay my bills if, I paid what the judge tell me I have to pay. that's something that we all have to consider when we land down with who we land down with and not
Absolutely.
protecting ourselves. At the end of the day, you have to factor in that this may end in someone being impregnated.
Exactly.
And
you
if
have
you
to
choose-
presume that it's going to happen every time.
Yes, and if you choose not to protect yourself at that moment, he or she, then stuff comes with that.
Yes.
You know, and unfortunately, that means your money. And I
Yes.
know for men, that's really big. When you start talking
When
about
you
their
hit they
money,
pockets.
it's like a whirlwind
Yes.
come in. It's like, it is not,
No one is
That's
trying to
serious.
make you destitute, sir.
no.
You may have to make some adjustments, work a second job,
Live in your means.
live within your means, evaluate your entire life, because this child and that child's need comes first. Now, here's another thing to consider. Another way that I want men to look at child support is this. We have a formula,
Okay.
but let's say, once again, let's use the same example. Dad works for Chrysler. Let's say he earns $115,000 a year. Now let's say mom doesn't, make as much. Let's say she makes $40,000 a year. Some dads have this theory, well, when the child is with her, she should take care of him. When the child is with me, I'll take care of him. Well, you have to balance it out. If you're making $115,000, your children may have certain things at your
Yes.
home and certain quality of life there that they don't have at their mother's.
Yes.
And they may be struggling at their mother's home, because $40,000 for a number of kids
Doesn't go that far.
doesn't
at
go
all.
that far. So they don't want children going back and forth to each house, knowing that, oh, at dad's house we got this, and this.
We can go to the movies.
Right.
At mama house, we just gonna go outside and throw some sticks at each other.
Right, we watching Netflix. We
Yeah.
can never do anything. So in order for a child to have a quality life in both homes, the child support
makes a
is
lot of
there
sense.
to balance the equation, to balance it out.
We
so
see
that
it.
the child.
We see it with the celebrities all the time. We be like, wait a minute.
Yes. Yes.
Wait. Why
How
is that
much?
judge saying that
Yes.
$400,000 a month?
Yes.
That child doesn't need $400,000 a month. But when you factor in that the whether it's the ex-husband or the ex-wife, and they may be worth $400 million.
Yes.
It's certain things that they have going on over at the
Yes.
$400 million house that they may not have.
Right.
In
The parents' house. Right. Or, one parent is a thousandaire, the
Yeah.
other one is a millionaire.
Yeah.
So when the child is with the millionaire, they're riding on boats and jet skis and this, and this, and then they go to the trailer park parents' home and they scratching and surviving like the TV show Good Times. So you have to balance this out. That's what child support is about.
So listen, people, we want you to think long and hard, first of all, who you laying down with. Let's just make it plain. And you could do what you want. You're an adult. But make sure that you're protected. And if you choose not to be protected, know that there is a strong possibility that you may create a life and you may or may not be with that person forever. And if you're not, it's going to hit your pockets. So if you're in a situation where you're fighting the case that he or she, and I keep saying he or she because it's not just women, and it's not just men that are going before judges. It's both parties. So if you're in a situation where she or he is not allowing you to see your child, contact an attorney and let that attorney work for you. Is it going to cost you a little bit money? Yes. But I guarantee you it's not enough money that will put you in a situation where you'll be homeless or something to that effect. And your child will love you for it. And some attorneys allow you to do, I don't want to say a payment plan. So, first thing you got, just pick up the phone and call an attorney so that you can have your rightful rights with your child. don't sit back not another year and you still saying the same thing. Thank you for calling Detroit Table Talk. Okay, we're gonna move on. Call back if you can. But listen, if you're going through this, call an attorney. Let the attorney work for you. Allow your rights to be represented in front of a judge, a referee, magistrate, whatever they're called, so that you won't look up when your child is 14 or 15 and now they don't want a relationship with you. Attorney Lester, let them know where they can find you if they need your services.
Yes, thank you so much. My website is www.attorneyrochelle.com, and Rochelle is spelled Richelle. So it's www.attorneyrochelle.com. My email address is attorneyrochelle@gmail.com. And once again, Rochelle is Richelle. I can also be reached at 248-915-8990. If you're willing to fight for your children, I will fight with you.
And as always, myself and Dro can be contacted on Facebook at Detroit Table Talk, all platforms Detroit Table Talk, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Inbox us and we will return your call as much as we can. No, we'll return your call. Don't forget, get the book, Covenant Relationships, Understanding What God Desires for You. Life Happens, How God Sustained Me. And the newest book is Let's Be Friends. This is a book on autism. Again, you can find us on Detroit Table Talk, Podcastic, Simply Podcastic 1 and 2, YouTube, Detroit Table Talk, and Instagram, Detroit Table Talk. We hope that you got something out of the conversation at the table. What we want you to leave with is each parent matters. The child is the most important aspect of, making sure that you get to spend time with your child, you get to help raise your child, and your child benefits from both parents. Get an attorney, and let's get, you at a place where you're able to see your child when you want, or at least when the court lays it out for you. So until next week, where we'll be having a Father's Day special, we have a couple of guests coming on. We'll see you next week on Detroit Table Talk, Saturday at 5 p.m.